right, class 7. So muscle anatomy. So I'm just going to go through. We already did skeletal anatomy. Now I'm just going to talk about the muscles. Because obviously they affect the form. All right. So I'm just going to quickly show you where these are. So the temporalis is on the temple here, such as you would have thought. The masseter is the big muscle here. You'll notice when people clench their jaws, you can actually see that flex. Sternocleidomastoid is actually the muscle that goes from the mastoid process that's right underneath the ear here down to the sternum and the clavicle. That's why it's sternocleido and mastoid. All right. It creates the pit of the neck. It's right, where you see your sternum, you have that little gap there, or the little indent. That's where that goes. Okay. Frontalis is the front. This here. Orbicularis oculi is the round muscle that goes around the eyes, the sphincter, and orbicularis oris is this one. Okay. And these are just important because you'll notice when we do our topology, we actually mimic that. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, pectoralis major. So if you look, that's obviously this. There is a pectoralis minor. One thing I kind of want to bring up to you is this, is that it's not a square shape. A lot of times people make a square shape out of it. It is not. It actually comes up into and inserts into the femur. Or not the femur, the humerus. Here's the thing. And it kind of bands in. You'll notice it actually rotates on its side as it comes in. That's why if you put your arm straight out, you'll notice they have a big meaty part just before your arm, like it kind of bulges out right where the deltoid is, like in the anterior or front of the body. That's the pectorals there. Okay, so remember that if you have a muscle, generally speaking, it's going to go from one bone to another if it's skeletal muscle, because otherwise, what's it doing? It's just not doing anything. It needs to flex things. So the pectorals have to insert into the humerus here. If it just went up into nothing, like just a square, it would do nothing. Serratus anterior are these guys right here. A lot of times you see them when people do like comic book drawings, like they really kind of exaggerate these. External obliques are these things here. All right. Rectus abdominis is obviously your stomach here. The anterior abdominal aponeurosis. Aponeurosis is a sheet-like tendon. Basically, you see how there's this white thing over top of it. It's just this thing that goes over top. Inguinal ligament is right here. It's basically what creates the inguinal furrow. So it goes from the ilium here to the pubic bone. All right. The torso or posterior or back. So you have the erector spinae group, which is the sacrospinalis and the multifidus. That's basically, you can't really see it here, but see how it's bulging on either side of the spine here? It creates most of that bulge. That makes it an indent on the transverse process instead of, or spinous process instead of being, instead of the spine sticking out, it's usually kind of indented. It's because of either side of these, and they basically help you erector spinae group. So it helps you erect your spine, so it keeps you up. Okay. The rhomboids are these little square muscles in here. The latissimus dorsi is this meaty part here. It's this thing, right? So, sometimes that gets really nice and big. It's kind of the opposing end of the pectorals. You can kind of see it here, okay? And the trapezius, which is named for the shape it is, and that's basically this mantle almost on the back here, okay? All right, you can kind of see it there. Arm muscles. All right, so the deltoid is your shoulder muscle here. Actually, this is mostly labeled. Biceps brachii is this here. Triceps are obviously the back end. The coracobrachialis is actually a muscle on the inside here. It's like a little nugget. You can kind of see it's labeled there, actually. Forearm pronators and flexors, and forearm extensors and forearm flexors. Extensors make something come out. So if I were to use my forearm extensors, that would be on this side. They are going to help my fingers stick out. If I use the flexors, it's going to help my fingers go in. Okay. So it's going to, like if you're going to flex a muscle, right, you pull your arm towards you. Okay. But if you're going to extend out to something, you're going to reach out. That's how we label those. Now the pronators are actually things that allow you to twist your arm, right? So if you if you roll your wrist, you'll notice that it's actually your forearm rolling. It's not the wrist. The wrist itself actually doesn't rotate like that. It's not capable. If you hold your wrist still and try to rotate it, you're going to see all you're really doing is rotating your forearm. That's what the pronators are, okay? So they call it pronation and supination, and basically it's revealing the palm of your hand or revealing the back of your hand. You can kind of look at muscles. They work in opposites. So if we were to look at, you have the deltoid on this side, and then you have like, the various muscles on this side, and then you have your biceps, your triceps, you got, you know, your pronators and flexors, and then you got your extensors and so on and so forth. But usually there'll be one on the other side of combat, and you get this sort of like chain link feel. Leg muscles, your quadriceps, which is what everybody calls these. You have your vastus lateralis, which is basically this one here, okay? Lateralis meaning on the outside. Vastus medialis, you're right, it's right on this side. Vastus intermedius, it's actually underneath this muscle. This is actually the rectus femoris, this big meaty one here. So really the three you kind of see are those. It's the vastus medialis, lateralis, and the rectus femoris, okay? The Sartorius is actually this band that comes down and around. The reason why this one's a little more significant is you can see it actually kind of helps force this like nice looking shape here. You've got this nice little line that flows. And the iliotibial band is actually this thing here, and it goes on the outside. Okay, so iliotibial, so from the ilium to the tibia. Okay, leg posterior, so your hamstrings. Yeah, that's all these guys back here. There's a whole big bunch of them. The only one that really kind of matters, obviously got the, I don't even mention the buttocks there. Obviously it's the gluteus maximus. But, you know, this is the gastrocnemius, the really big one. So here's some landmarks. The idea behind these landmarks is that these should be seen on pretty much every model. Every nude person you see should appear this way. All right, so you will almost always see the ramus of the jaw, which is the bend of the jaw. The pit of the neck is always visible. The linea alba is the line that runs down the center of the person. The patella is obviously the knee bone. Tuberosity is a bump on your tibia. And it's generally creates this, instead of like it being a round shape from the patella, you'll notice that your knee kind of has more of a triangular shape, and that's because the tibial tuberosity kind of forms the pica underneath. The costal arch is the line that's made from your rib cage. Now that's either going to act, your stomach will either be going in, and this will be acting as a protuberance, or this will be going and your stomach will coming out. So it'll be more of like a depression, okay? But it's always in some way visible. The anterior superior iliac spine is basically a bump on your hips that you can feel. And there's two of them. There's a anterior inferior iliac spine, but the superior one's the one on top. It's basically the top ridge. The inguinal furrow I already kind of talked about. That creates that nice little shape here. All right, occipital protuberance. If you feel the back of your skull, you'll see there's a little bump there. 7 cervical vertebrae is the last of your cervical vertebrae, and you'll notice that the spinous process on that sticks out more than the others, okay? Scapula, obviously, are always visible. Olecranon process, which is the more or less the elbow knuckle here. Spinal column, obviously, you always see the posterior iliac spines. There's actually a bump on the back end. Usually it acts as kind of like a dimple. If it's not a dimple, the person needs to eat something, but that should be like a dimple. That's what creates that. And the trochanters are basically of the femur. It's like the part that sticks out. If you look up here, I don't have the skeleton here, but that's what it does. Okay, it just sticks. It makes the leg stick out, come out back in. All right. So one of the reasons why we're learning all this stuff is, one, obviously it helps you make better work, but it also helps you produce better geometry. Okay, your topology will be better. So if you're going to base it off of that, you can see that this model here, if I was to do a nude model, basically follows the topology. The topology basically mimics the muscle groups. Okay. Now this is if you're going to be, being really tight about it and very particular. And you can see basically all of these kind of try and follow it. So if you were going to do a completely nude model, this is somewhat what you'd want to do. All right, for the next model, for the next project, is going to be, so your cartoon character's done. Yay! Now what you need to do is produce a human model. Okay, so, and what you're, oh yeah, actually you've already been working on the same way, because the last project, or the last assignment was to take your pictures. Now that you have your pictures, what you're going to do is you're going to bring in those pictures, use them as image planes, and you're basically going to just block out your model. Okay. So I have the video tutorials here where I kind of go through and I do mine. That handsome devil. Here's the rubric. But basically you should have a more or less, the full body should be kind of done. Don't worry about getting the face done. I just made a sphere and stuck it on the head. That's fine. That's as much as you need to do. It doesn't have to be anything more than that. But basically you're going to try and complete the person I'm not expecting detail, so there doesn't have to be like shirts or anything like that. I just want the body kind of blocked out where all the elements are there. And then next week, what you'll do is you'll just basically finish it up. You'll add, details and sleeves and more muscle definition or whatever else you want to add to your model. Okay. All right, that's it.